All right, I have a little bit of a experiment I want to do when it comes to Blender. As you can see here, I have some rigid body objects and they are slotted so that they slot into each other. Now, the way the rigid body engine works, it either calculates physics based on the mesh or based on the silhouette, something like that. Now, I have it set to mesh, so it will calculate based on mesh. Now, here's the problem. There are no intersecting vertices in this in these meshes. Basically, the slots or the logs or whatever you want to call them slot into each other, and there's a tiny bit of a gap. See, I'll zoom in. So there's a little bit of gap there, a little bit of gap there, and even if you look right here, I have a little bit of a gap. That's all to make sure I don't have any intersecting meshes. And I have them all set to mesh. It doesn't matter which one I click on, it's mesh. So it should work. I even have the margin set to 0. So it only calculates based on the actual mesh and not a distance from the mesh. But if I was to start the simulation, it flies apart. And that's because, quite frankly, the Blender rigid body system, from what I understand, is not that great. I have never used anything other than Blender, so I have no first-hand experience other than Blender. But I can tell you, this is not how it should work. Yeah, I mean, even if I was to go here and make sure I change that so that it will recalculate, it just goes nuts. So my question is, how do I go about doing this without using mesh? Because whenever I have this set to mesh, that's when it goes nuts. They really need to work on the rigid body system in Blender. I don't think they've actually done anything to it in over 10 years, but I'm not 100% sure. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this log, actually, let me do it this way. I want to go ahead and get rid of all of them except the bottom one, or one of them. All right, I'll hide this floor. Now, I'm wanting to go ahead and do this in 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece, 4 piece, 5 piece. Make that out of 5 individual rigid body objects. All right, so, and then I'm going to use constraints to hold them together. So it's going to be the same shape. It should work the same, but because the physics engine calculates it differently, it should work. So let me go ahead and change this to 5 individual objects, and then I'll start talking again. I'm probably going to fast forward through this. All right, now I have it in 5 individual pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and convert these to a simple box, because the rigid body engine loves calculating boxes. It's fairly good at it. But when it comes to meshes, it doesn't do it good at all. So now I need to connect all of these with constraints. I'll use the center one, connect that, and come up here to Object, Rigid Body, Connect, and Fixed Center Selected to Active. Good enough. And I'm going to then go to this one and do the same thing. Object, Rigid Body, Connect. Object, rigid body, connect. Object, rigid body, connect. Now, I want to go ahead and I'm going to keep them fixed. And I'm not going to actually make them breakable. I'm going to override iterations, and I'm going to set this to 500 because I want the link or the connection, the constraint, to be strong. So now this has a constraint connecting this piece to this piece, and a constraint connecting this piece to this piece, and the same on the other side. Now I'm going to parent these to their respective object so that they stay with it. Mostly to make it easier to understand it at a later point when stuff is moving around. Control P, parent to object. Control P, parent. Control P, parent. Control P, and parent. And of course, the reason why I'm doing that way I can just press G for grab and that constraint will move with it. All right, now we'll go ahead and select all of these. I'm going to put this wireframe so I can see through it better. And I'm going to, let's see, this is on the x-axis, so I'm going to press Shift D, enter, and then change this from a negative to a positive. Well, I forgot I got to do that for all of them. So Control Z, I'm just going to press G for grab, and then X for the x-axis and move it over here. I could do it all individually, but it'd probably be quicker if I just do it this way. Now I'm going to press Shift D again, and then I'm going to rotate Z 90, and then I think it will line up correctly. Grab Y, and then over here, yeah, I'm a little off, but that's all right. Grab X. All right. Now, all I gotta do now is just duplicate that one. It's hard to tell what's what with wireframe for whatever reason. All right. Now, before I do that, I need to move us up 3. All right, put this back a wireframe, and then I need to move this up so that the bottom edge is right above that. G for grab, Z for G for grab, Z for the Z axis. Had the cursor down here, and it didn't work first off. Grab Z. It's important to get the first ones right, being that I'm going to duplicate it. G for grab, Z for the Z axis. It's not perfectly touching, but it's close enough. All right. Now press Shift D, Y. Well, I forgot. Control Z. I've got to duplicate the constraints as well. Making sure I got them all selected. I do. All right, now I can go back up here and then Shift D, and then Y. All right. Now, B for box select. Make sure I have my floor hidden. All right. Now I need to duplicate all of these until it's just barely above that. Shift D, Z. Make sure I'm all the way up. And that should work. Now I can just press Shift R to repeat what I just did. And where's my floor at? There's my floor. Unhide it. Make sure I'm not intersecting on the floor. I don't think I am. Yeah, I'm good. Put this back in solid view so we can actually see what's going on. And if the physics work now, if I click play, it shouldn't jump all over the place. There you go. The physics something don't look right though. Yeah, it worked. It just looks weird to me for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, now I got too big of a gap. How did I get that big of a gap? Let me I don't remember putting that big of a gap. All right, let me see if I can get rid of this gap. All right, now let me box select this, delete, and let me see if I can duplicate these again in a way that makes sense where there's no gap. Shift D, Z. Still a little bit of a gap, but that's fine. Let's try this duplication again. All right. I don't expect it to glitch out, but it's going to settle a little bit, which is fine. But look how much slower the simulation is because of all the constraints. See, it shouldn't be like that when it comes to Blender. The physics engine should be better. The rigid body physics engine just is not very good at all. Like I said, I don't have anything to compare it to, but it seems like it needs to be improved. That's all I'm saying. But as far as the back end of how Blender works, I really don't know. I don't know the first thing about coding Python about the only thing I can do is batch files and a little bit of the old GW basic from the 80s. That's about it. But just for fun, it solves. Let me start here. It solves the issue of everything flying apart, but it slows the simulation down to an absurd degree. I mean, I only have 1,117 objects, and that includes the constraints. Half of those are constraints, and it should not be anywhere near this slow. But I'm going to go ahead and throw something at it. Might as well. I already have it built, and we'll just see what it looks like. See how well the cross hatching or the slotting holds it together, because the constraints aren't holding the tower together. It's just holding individual pieces together. Add mesh, and we'll add a UV sphere. Scale to enter, Control A, enter, grab. I'm going to make that shade smooth because I don't like that. It just looks better. All right, make this a rigid body. Let's give it 50 kg. Sphere animated. Turn that on. X. Let me make sure I'm lined up. Nope, I'm not. Grab Y. All right. Give us a single keyframe on the X-axis. And then go to frame 20. Well, actually, I'm going to go to frame 30. And grab X. Bring it to about right here. Another single keyframe on the X-axis. Go to frame 15. And uncheck that and keyframe it. Holds together decent. But the physics is calculating very slowly until everything came to a stop, then it got quick again. All right, now let's raise the weight to 100. Click play. Well, is it going to stay standing? Yeah, it's going to stay standing. That's interesting. Until the weight shifts enough so the center of gravity is beyond, probably right here. it's going to continue to stand. All right, let's double it again, 200. I like the simulation. I like the way it looks. It's just it's so slow for such a few number of objects. That's constraints for you. They will definitely slow down a simulation. It definitely ain't going to stay standing now. It's kind of holding together but falling over, even though it's literally just physics or the shape of it all holding it together instead of the constraints holding it together. So it doesn't like I want it to, like I wanted it to using mesh without the constraints. It's just still slow, but it's stable anyway. So I got that going for it. Let me change this to 250 so it doesn't keep going. That's what it looks like at real time. That was weird. What did that ball do? It had a weird bounce. Huh. I don't know what that was about. All right, for fun, let's go ahead and raise this up to 1,000 just to see what it does. Of course, just rips right through it. And falls off the edge of my floor. The ball barely slowed down when it hit it. Look. Sometimes I can just do this stuff for hours, just run a little experiments like this. And most of the time, y'all never see this stuff because I don't record it. This is just stuff I do to entertain my brain. I actually keep my brain working well since dementia and stuff like that runs in my family. And I'm getting old. Let's turn this up to, actually, let's do this. Let's turn this back down to 50. But let's go to this keyframe right here. G for grab. And for the x-axis, and then bring it out here. Well, actually, where's the, let me do it this way. Rigid body, bring it back down. I'll turn this off for now. And I'm going to press G for grab, X for the x-axis, and bring it to about right here. And I'm doing this so I can make the ball go faster. All right. Insert or replace single keyframe. Go to the next one and press G for grab, X, and bring it out here. That way the medium point's about right here still. It's going to release the ball about right here, but it's going to be going much faster. All right, turn rigid body back on. Click play. See how much faster the ball's going when it hits? You can see it's tore it apart now, and I turned it all the way back down to 50. Sometimes the physics engine is fun to play with, but yeah, they need to do some work on it. I've seen other physics engines. I don't know which ones they were because I've never actually used other ones, but I've seen physics simulations in programs that are running way faster and way more stable and performed way better on the hardware you have. On the same hardware, it would perform better. But like I said, I don't know much of anything about how the back end of any of this works. But I do wish that they would update the physics engine, the rigid body physics engine, and the particle system physics engine. But I think they've kind of given up on that stuff. Their Blender is definitely being geared more towards the professional and so forth, and with people who actually animate characters, because that's the more popular thing to do. This stuff right here is more entertaining to me. I've tried animating characters before. I've done it a few times. It's just one of those things I'm not into. But when it comes to like fluid simulations, rigid body simulations, yeah, I'm into that stuff. Because I mean, that's pretty much all I've ever really done with it. But anyway, this is just me kind of complaining about a free software that I've never had to pay for. And I'm not even really complaining. But mostly just, I don't know if you would call this a vlog or a test or whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to waste anybody's time. I'm sure most people ain't even paying attention at this point. They're probably like, what is this old guy talking about? But anyway, later, people.